Last Saturday, twilight afternoon footy, we saw two of the big heavyweights go out at Collingwood and West Coast. And there's, I think, a fair argument to say they may be doing it again deep in September. But how do the coaches break the game down? Well, with the use of the king of strategy, Rodney Eade, David King is going to take us through some of the key areas as we reflect upon the blockbuster from last weekend.
Thanks, Jace. Well, we had a look at, I reckon, 7 things pre-game, just really important components that we thought would make the difference in the game. We're going to review those. We talked about it at half-time during the game. We want to have a look at those things and get your thoughts, Rocket, Lynchy and Jace, as to how you think that they went. And we'll go from the top. Post-game audit, if you like. So what's working, what's not, what they can work on for next time. The counter-attack of the Pies versus the press of the West Coast Eagles. It's plus 4 minutes at the end of the game, Rocket, plus 7 minutes in that second quarter, which we'll touch on later on. But you'd be pretty comfortable and pretty happy with the Pies' counter-attack.
Yeah, I think there was some periods that we were slow to move, and that gives the opposition chance. But generally, we're pretty pleased with the way the defenders were able to get the ball out of the back 50.
We had the ruck battle. We had Jolly and Dawes versus Nick, Nat and Cox. We've got some numbers here that we'll show you in a sec. But the sharking ability of the midfielders of the Pies to get hold of that ball that Nick Nat Nui was put into advantage and Cox was put into advantage was first class. We've got a bit of vision here. We just want to show you, when we talk about Sharks, what they actually are. We'll get to that in a moment. What were your thoughts initially on what the ruck situation was?
Obviously every team that goes in against the West Coast Eagles know that those two are the superstars of the competition, and they can jump. You can see the jump here of Nat Nui, and he can hit 360 degrees. Cox has generally got 2 or 3 hit zones, hasn't got as much flexibility. But I think it's just about how you set up. Robert Harvey obviously did a lot of work during the week with the midfielders about what sort of formation we would have in the midfield, and I think having some quality players there. But I thought their body work was very good, and I think we lost the hit outs, I don't know, by 18 or 19. I think we won the clearances, but I thought Jolly was very good. Yeah. Jolly's ability to stop the run of the other two, to check them, to use his experience was fantastic.
I know Cox had a big last term, which probably helped West Coast threaten to steal the game, but I thought that was one of Jolly's best games of the year. The fact that he didn't get a hell of a lot of support from Dawes. I know Dawes tried hard, but they're up against 2 monsters. Yeah. I thought he did a terrific job, Darren Jolly.
Yeah, and I think it's one position in today's footy that you just need experience. If you've got experience, and age is not a big issue. I think if you've got experience where you can use your body, because it's such a body position. And there's times he checked his run, he didn't jump, and you can see Nat Nui was looking at him, so it took his focus off as well. So I thought Giles did extremely well.
He did very well. As you said, his body positioning was fantastic, just to be able to lock those guys down as much as possible. Dawsey didn't quite get up high enough for that centre bounce.
Need a ladder, mate.
No, we wouldn't get anywhere near it.
Well, these were the pure numbers, Rocket, that I think that you'd be reflecting on post-game when you look at the hit-out numbers that were plus 18, clearances were level, and first possessions were level. So you can see here, if you've got that sort of dominance at the hit-out situation, you want to be able to get more of a return than just breaking even here. And I think that that's a West Coast game. You're able to take that away from them, which was a credit to your midfield strategy and your ability. You've done it, I reckon, 3 times in a row now to the West Coast, so you're structurally in good order there. We move on to the next section, which was the young battle, the young guns, Side, Bottom and Beams versus Shuey and Scott Selwood. And we were fascinated what they were going to bring at the MCG, these West Coast young guns. And when you look at the numbers, you'd have to say that Beams was terrific. He was probably the best player on the ground, Jace. There's the combined numbers of both those players, 69 disposals versus 42, but they were all damaging. They all had an offensive flow to them. You know, 11 inside 50s versus 6. The clearance is not too bad. I mean, that's a 50% advantage. 3 goals to Beams was probably the difference between this battle. You know, Scott Selwood really couldn't impact the game at all. Sure, he was okay, but minimal amount of kicks.
Probably as quiet as I've seen Scott Selwood this year, but I think that was a landslide victory for Collingwood in that respect.
It was.
Yeah, I thought Beams' form, obviously the last 6 or 7 weeks, has been terrific, but to stand up against quality opponents, and Pritters he had a bit as well. Pritters played quite well also, but Beams' ability to win it in tight. I think Steele didn't have as good a game as he's had probably in the past, but he still worked extremely hard. And I think the support they had, obviously a player like Blair was extremely good for us as well.
This was fascinating throughout the day. Cloak and Dawes versus the key post pillars of Glass and McKenzie. I thought that was a terrific battle, McKenzie and Cloak, for most of the day. We saw some great contested marking from Cloak. He was able to use his big body and get involved in the game, but for about 45 minutes at the start of the game, McKenzie was able to hold him to 0 marks for the whole period of the game. He was able to put 3 goals on the board, and he found ways to score, Rocket, but it was a great battle, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, and I think he's a really improved player, Mackenzie. And I thought Dawsey started well. He took a couple of marks early, kicked a couple of points. If he gets that goal early, gets his confidence up. But that we know that Glass is a fantastic player. His ability to use his body, and he's got some good tricks in his armoury as well. But I thought that was Clokey's best game for a while. But he's been building towards that. But his ability, to kick 5 goals in a 12-goal game was fantastic.
Conversion's the key, though. I mean, we spoke to Travis Cloke after the game, and he made comments along the lines of, well, I probably didn't actually beat my opponent, but I found ways to get goals. Yeah. And all of a sudden, when you get 5 on your name, as you say, that is as influential as anyone out on the ground in a game that wasn't incredibly high scoring.
And he still missed that one from, 15 metres out. But that
He's got that shank in his repertoire.
Absolutely. Then he kicked one from about 55 just after it. But he was fantastic. Contested marking from a big forward makes an enormous difference to the midfield, their confidence to get the ball in quick. And he was fantastic, especially in that third term.
The West Coast Tools have posed a problem for most of the competition this year versus the defensive lock of your guys down that back 6. I was fascinated with this battle. 6 marks inside 50 at half-time. They just seemed to get on top late in that second term, Rocket, but a great battle all round. You'd be really comfortable with how your back 6 held up.
Yeah, I think obviously having Reid back, there was Tuvey as well, and Shaw played a little bit in the wing, a little bit forward, but then went back as well. And we've got Tarrant to come back as well. We're just starting to get some sort of solidity in the back half. But Maxwell was terrific. We lost a little bit with structures and some stoppages during the second quarter, and that allowed Darling at one stage took a mark, was able to kick a goal, and they were able to get a couple of crumbing goals. But I thought the back 6 were very good.
Well, the loose man impact, which was our final point of the audit, if you like, Hernan Waters versus O'Brien and Maxwell. We just thought that their work was terrific. He's a brave player, isn't he? I mean,
he's fantastic. Like, they're in that situation. He was the +1, but we had players around him. And we should have been able to spoil that. And that's the thing that's been spoken about internally. We need to be able to impact that contest so at least the ball falls free. But he is a terrific player, Beau Waters.
He just kept coming back into it. I mean, I've never seen the sort of courage that he displayed. It was almost obscene. No regard for his own personal safety. Never ducked his head, never shirked going back. He went back hard and took that many contested marks. I thought he was outstanding.
He was really good. He's better than just a brave player now. I mean, he's a very creative player off half-back as well. So he's very handy to work in tandem with Glass and Mackenzie back there.
I love the press conferences after the game, Rocket. I think that Nathan Buckley sold your club really well this year. He's been a great ambassador. It's been a fantastic move by Eddie Maguire to make sure that he wasn't at another club. I think it's working perfectly at the moment. John Worsfold said some interesting things. Let's have a listen to what they said post-game.
In that start, we couldn't get our hands, as you said, couldn't get our hands on the footy for the first 15 minutes of the third quarter. The possession rate was remarkable, and winning the contested footy, we got a little bit stuck playing not the brand of footy we wanted to play and didn't adapt to it quick enough. It is one of the things we spoke about after the game as a group, identifying that and having some general leadership out on the ground amongst each area to say we need to adjust to that.
Yeah, it was a game of momentum, wasn't it? Sort of either ours or theirs, and I think that's what happens when you play good sides. I don't think we were great at being able to hold momentum when the Eagles had it. And to be honest, we might not have maximised ours. So it was a bit of an arm wrestle.
Well, it was an arm wrestle. It was absolutely spot on from Nathan Buckley. It was a game of momentum. We just want to show you the scoring chart that we see throughout the course of the game. You can see the goals coming up by 6 points here and the little zigzags for the one behind. The start of the game, you jumped them, Rocket. 3 goals won in that 8-minute period in the first initial stanza, if you like, to the West Coast not being able to get off to a flyer at all. And I think it was largely done off the back of your pressure, your ability to put the West Coast under pressure. And we'll show some vision here and talk over that if you like.
Yeah, I think it was a focus of both teams that the Eagles are terrific at the pressure as well, and obviously that we want to rate ourselves in that area. But I thought our forwards were very good. Forced them to quick kick, as you spoke about, and that was a good mark for Fasolo. Kicked a good goal from that. Put some pressure on here. Watch the receiver. So our tackle was stuck, and then we dropped that away a little bit for a while as well.
Well, that pressure there from Wellingham forced this boundary throw in on the wing, And it was just little components, little things just chipping in and making the structural game of the Pies work. We'll show this in a moment from behind the goals, but just the follow-up work, the ability to stay in the contest from Thomas, eventually allowed a free player in Maxwell to get back and drive the ball in long. Lucky bounce, fluky bounce, Chase. We talked about that on the day. And they're the sort of goals that Cloke got early to get himself rolling. You can just see here that same throw in from behind the goals. Loose man here, the +1 in Buckley, as we talk about time and time again. 3 other pairs around him there. The contested situation happens. Thomas eventually wins the ball off the boundary, on the boundary line there. Maxwell now is free because Lynch has rolled up the ground and Buckley's free. Darling back. He doesn't come up and cover those spare guys, those +1 defenders, if you like. The ball comes back through the middle. Darling now realises he's made a mistake. He should be up covering Buckley or Maxwell. Eventually gets to Maxwell. It's a really easy and pure inside 50, and I think John Worsfold would be really disappointed with that.
Yeah, I think there's some... and I know we're going to talk about some momentum, I suppose we're talking about that at the moment, but it was really on the back of some structures for both sides, and I think both sides will take out some real pluses out of the game, but they'll take out some areas that they need to improve and need to work on as far as consistency.
Then it swung, didn't it? Second quarter it swung. We're going to move this along to this patch here. 4 goals, 125. Pretty much done off the back of some great clearance work from the West Coast Eagles. You got game played in their forward half. Everything started to work for them here. We're just going to show some clearances here. You can just see how pure they are. Kerr in a bit of space there, able to drive the ball in long. Look at this. 2 and 3 efforts here from Nick Naitanui. Oh, what a presence inside that forward line he is. He gets back to his feet. I don't know how he does that.
That's something you don't see much of. Once a player's down and out, to stand up, get involved, get the ball back out.
Here's Kerr, Jace, coming late to this stoppage. He's going to that wing roll. He's not going right inside the stoppage. And he holds out. You can just see here how easy this is. And this is some of that stoppage stuff you talked about. Look at the space. For a player like Daniel Kerr, that's enormous space. This is the structural side of the game you talk about, Rocket, and coaches talk about ad nauseum. We don't really know what they're talking about until we see these pieces of vision. Again, late in the second term, just starting to get a bit tired here, Darren Jolly. You can see him at the bottom screen there. He's gone. He's gassed. He is out of energy. We haven't put a still on him here. This is real footage. This ball goes all the way up the wing and out of bounds, probably 90 metres from goal. He hasn't moved.
Gasping.
He's out. He is out. This is where you need some help from your teammates. Dorsies give him no love here at all. You can just see ball's gone out of bounds. The athletic ability of Nick Naitanui now kicks in because he's able to get up to that wing stoppage and make his way into that contested situation. Both Wellingham and Jolly stuck here in their forward line. Nick Naitanui all by himself. 4v3 at top of the screen. So the West Coast Eagles have got an extra man in their forward line and a pure ruck situation here. This is what happens. Logically, Naitanui wins the little hit out. Forward to Hill again. Outnumbered situation. Becomes a goal for Lynch.
Yeah, I have to stick up for Giles a little bit of that. I know he was gassed, but he'd run from centre-half back and he pushed hard forward. Naitanui got stuck in the middle, so that was obviously a fair gap between
them. We don't see that often from Collingwood.
They've always got that ability to get that pure clearance at the centre bounce. There's no doubt about that. They're ruckmen of first class. And they've always got that ability to put this on the scoreboard, Rocket. Yeah, they have, and obviously most teams are aware of that, and certainly we were, and that's why we wanted to at least negate them in the centre square. Hopefully we could win some, which we're pleased with the fact that we did. But any kick that they had coming out of the centre square, we want to put some pressure on. Well, you were good enough to flip that back around as we move to that next little part here. It was after half-time, 5-3 to zip. And it was largely done off the back, I think, of really challenging the West Coast Eagles to tackle. And we see some missed tackles here and some problems for the West Coast Eagles. Just here, you just see this one here, this boundary throw-in. Top of the screen there on the left, you've got Blair and you've got Swan. Their defenders need to stay goal side, make sure they're accountable. Thomas just gets through those two players in Gaff and Pritters too easy. Right now is panic stations for these defenders. They must be guarding goal side. They don't, and they pay a price. Swan could have easily towed this through after Blair's hard work, but he lets Blairy have that one. I think the West Coast are really disappointed with that. This missed tackle here, well, in a game that's probably under a goal result at the end of it, just simply not good enough.
Soft. Insipid, I think's the word, Kingy.
Yeah, I was looking for a word. We'll go with that one. I'm happy with that, Jace. And again here, Swan, I know he's hard to tackle, he's tough to tackle, but he's broken basically from the whole midfield pack of the West Coast there. 3 and 4 players circling him. I think John Worsfold will look at that and he'll say we lost on effort there.
Yeah, I think there's a few missed tackles, but certainly from our point of view, we were pleased, like Swan's kick there, under some pressure. And you spoke about how stoppages don't have the quick kick, but if you get a quick kick into a forward line with some players who can mark the ball, puts a pressure on the defenders. Now, Clokey marked that one, but I think the previous one, the Blair kicked, we got the ball in there. Got the ball in there, then it creates a bit of chaos around. and it fell our way.
West Coast got their game going. This last little patch here, you can just see here, late in the third term and early in the fourth, they were able to get the game played on their terms. And so Collingwood sort of mucked around with the ball a little bit, Rocket. They seemed to go away from what served them so well in the first three quarters.
That's an interesting point. Just hang on the ball, and I certainly don't think he was the only one. Marley Williams there's just quick kick, gives us a chance, gives the forwards a chance, and even Beamsy there, who was so good, wanted to handball backwards, to the U-turn to handball backward. Yep. Just under pressure, just get the ball going forward. Obviously that was one you probably want to forget as well, but I think the thing, and that's coming back to your stoppage about a quick kick, when you're under real pressure, just get the ball going forward. You just got to get some meterage going forward.
So that's the way things look when you do the post-match review, and they break down to the nth degree a lot of the different areas of the match.